You know, I could just say Spencer Walsh is a two-timing pig and end the video there, but you guys wanted the deep dive, so I'm giving you the deep dive. Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. So first off, I just wanted to say a quick apology for not posting this past month for those of you that noticed. I kind of have a lot going on in my world at the moment. First of all, my parents are getting divorced or separating, whatever you want to call it. I actually wasn't too sure if I was going to share that information with you guys, but there it is, so that's that. In happier news though, you might have noticed a bit of change in my setup here, and that is because I also just moved in with my boyfriend Josh, who has just been incredible throughout all of this, and yeah, amazing. I love him and I hope you guys will meet him properly very, very soon. But anyways, enough about me. You guys aren't here to hear about my boring life. We're here to talk about Teddy and Spencer, and so let's do that. I will say though that I did write my notes for this video about a month ago, like before I felt like my life was falling apart, and so if I miss out on any like minor details, I apologize. But I also don't feel like I will, because I do feel like I know their storyline pretty well. And so yes, with all that being said, let's just jump right into it. Alright, so Teddy and Spencer's storyline kind of starts before the show begins. In the first episode, we're introduced to Spencer as somebody who Teddy goes to school with that she has a study date with that night. PJ then goes on to tease her about it, saying that their study date is just a formality for them to make out, which later proves to be the case, but we'll get to that. So then we find out that it's their mom's first night back at work since having Charlie, and so she wants everybody in the house pitching in to help. So not wanting to cancel her study date, Teddy ends up moving it from the library to her living room. When Spencer arrives, Teddy makes everybody vacate from the room, and then Gabe ends up outing her to Spencer when he asks, quote unquote, when that hot guy is getting here. Then the two of them are finally left alone, and then we see that, like I mentioned earlier, they're not just there to study.
Oh, man, I left my book at school.
Oh, that's okay. We can just share mine. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Good. Because I'm all about the learning.
They then end up getting interrupted by PJ's band rehearsing in the basement, and Spencer makes a comment about Teddy living next to that weird PJ kid, in which she then reveals that PJ is actually her brother. He says that he's sorry, and she says, yeah, me too. So I guess good to know that she didn't take that comment personally, because I don't know, I feel like I would. Like, it's one of those situations where it's like, I can make fun of that person, but you can't, in my opinion, but I guess Teddy doesn't feel the same way, which is okay. So Teddy returns after yelling at PJ, and the two of them continue their flirtatious studying. Chaos then ensues, and PJ ends up having to rush their dad to the hospital, leaving Teddy in charge of Charlie. And then we have this really awkward moment where Spencer tries to like rock the baby with Teddy, which just makes me uncomfortable. And then the episode ends with two more almost kisses that both end up getting interrupted. But luckily for Teddy, or maybe unluckily is more the right way to put it, none of this chaos seems to deter Spencer, as we see him text her in her closing video diary, asking her to hang out at his place the following night. But then despite that somewhat cliffhanger, we actually don't see Spencer again until a couple episodes later during the Sadie Hawkins dance episode. So the episode starts off with Teddy giving a refresher as to what happened in the first episode between her and Spencer, and she says that she's still waiting on her first kiss with him. Then we move on to lunch the following day, where Teddy is talking to Ivy, and she's saying that she wants to ask Spencer to the dance, and Ivy says that she has to act fast because her window of opportunity is closing. But Teddy says that she wants to wait and ask him when the time is right, up until she sees another girl approach him, in which she throws a slice of pizza at her. She then goes on to play dumb, but then Spencer compliments her shot, and so she asks him to the dance, and he says okay. So now we're on the way to the dance, and Spencer tells Teddy that she looks really nice, and then she says that he is really nice. So I guess Teddy isn't really the best judge of character, but also I get that they're still like in the earlier stages, so it's okay. Teddy gets PJ to play a slow song for them so that they can dance together, and so then we see them dancing together, but then Emmett interrupts them by getting PJ to change it to a fast song. And then this leads to a dance battle between Spencer and Emmett, in which Spencer gets so into that he ends up using Teddy as a coat rack. And for some reason, Teddy is still interested in Spencer after this. Like, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but I just personally feel like if somebody put their coat over my head so that they could go and dance with somebody else, like, I just feel like that person wouldn't be hearing from me again. But then again, Teddy also hasn't really seemed that interested in Spencer yet, like as a person. It's more so just been that she really wants to get that kiss from him, which also kind of rubs me the wrong way. Anyways, on the car ride back, Teddy gets Emmett to pull over and look at something that's wrong with the car so that she can get into the front seat and get her kiss from Spencer.
Look, I'm sorry I got so caught up with Emmett and the dancing. I kind of liked the way things were going before then.
Yeah, me too. Oh. But I'm glad we got to go to the dance together. I mean, I was a little nervous because Ivy said my window was closing, and then Lauren Sandoval almost asked you, and then Ivy and Emmett showed up at my house, and I was like, oh no, how is this gonna work? And I just... That was a really nice way of telling me to shut up.
And as far as first kisses go on Disney Channel, I feel like that one is a little bit lackluster, but At the same time, I also respect it for being simple and like fairly realistic. And then we have this cute moment in her video diary where she's gushing over her first kiss and talking about how she can't stop smiling, which is a really sweet note to end on. So Spencer disappears again for a bit, but then we see him come back in episode 15 when the two of them are studying for Spanish class together at Teddy's house. The two end up having to go outside after they keep getting interrupted by Teddy's family members, and that's when Spencer asks her to wear his jersey on Friday.
It's sort of a tradition that the players' girlfriends wear their jerseys on game day.
So that would make me your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Cool. Because I wasn't exactly sure of our status and I was too nervous to ask, and I didn't want to be one of those girls that made you talk about it, but then again, I was going...
So that's a yes on the jersey?
So now I guess in another somewhat lackluster way, the two are now officially a couple, so that's great. Moving on, we then see Spencer giving Teddy a tour of his house, which is a little bit inconsistent, assuming that she did go over to his house after she was invited in the first episode. I mean, I guess she could have canceled or something, but like I still feel like this is a lot of time to have passed for this to be like the first time she's ever been at his house. Which I personally feel like is a little bit of a red flag, but maybe that's just me. Anyways, Teddy ends up being wowed by his parents' lack of arguing, his dad's guitar playing, his mom's fancy cooking, and their massage chair. The following day, Teddy purposely goes to Spencer's house early, as in like before he even gets home, because she enjoys their calm atmosphere so much and all of the things that I previously mentioned. But then after Spencer gets home, Teddy's family is shown on the news for a video of Charlie that went viral, and Spencer's parents go on to make fun of them for being so wacky. Spencer tells them to stop, revealing that it's Teddy's family that they're making fun of, which she confirms, which causes them to apologize. So Teddy goes home and Spencer later shows up to apologize and check in on her. He also confesses that he likes spending time at her place because of all the chaos and how much more fun it is in comparison to his place. The episode ends with Teddy telling Charlie that she hopes that she finds someone as good as him when she's older, which is kind of ironic given what's to come. Next up is the talent show episode in which the two enter as this like dancing duo. So this is the episode in which Spencer finds out that Teddy can't dance. And we see this when he's over rehearsing and he shows her a move and then she butchers it. She ends up showing him a few more of her crazy moves that she's been working on, and he ends up looking very concerned. At school the next day, Spencer goes to Ivy and she advises him to just be straight up with her and tell her that she can't dance. He then tries to get her to tell her instead, but she laughs, and so then he says that he'll do it and he's just gonna be honest with her. But then we have an optical flip to him at her doorstep in crutches. He apparently sprained his ankle and Ivy can tell that he's bluffing, but Teddy feels bad for him. The lie doesn't end up going on for much longer though, as the following day at school, Teddy ends up catching Spencer running on his bad ankle, and he admits that he faked his injury because she can't dance.
The problem wasn't me.
Oh.
It's no big deal. Lots of people can't dance. And you're one of them.
For your information, I'm a great dancer.
Teddy, I'm just being honest.
Oh, like you were about your ankle? No, you know what? I'm gonna find myself a new partner. Someone who appreciates my talent.
Teddy, come on.
I even knitted you a special sock to keep your toes warm, because that's another thing I'm good at, knitting.
Teddy ends up competing with Emmett, who isn't able to admit to her that she's not very good, and so the two of them end up partaking in the talent show, and the whole thing kind of turns to chaos. So the episode ends with Spencer apologizing for lying, she forgives him, and they walk away happily. Before I move on to the next episode though, I just have to say, like, huge red flag. Maybe this is a reach, but I don't care. Like, him lying about his ankle is just proof that he is capable of lying to her. And also just like the whole fact that he cared more about his public perception in this high school than like having a good time and dancing with his girlfriend. Like, I get that at that age you're very insecure and you want everyone to like you, but like Spencer is already like the most liked guy in school. Like, he's one of the popular jock kind of characters, and so anything he did the school would have loved. And so I wish he could have just like gotten up on stage and had a good time with Teddy, no matter how awful of a dancer she is. But anyways, let's move on to episode 20, which is basically the start of his downfall. So Spencer comes over after his shift at the juice bar, which is this new job he has, and so the two of them are hanging out up until Charlie throws a plastic hammer at his face. Teddy gets upset with her, but then Spencer says that it's okay and that she didn't mean it, but then Charlie goes on to bite his finger. So she apologizes for her, but then Spencer kind of overreacts in my opinion and says that he has to go and get his finger looked at. And so she asks if they can not study together another time, but then he says that he'll call her, which is just like not the best response. So then we see Teddy telling Ivy about what happened, and Ivy theorizes that maybe Charlie is able to sense that something is up with Spencer and that he could be hiding something. And I just love that this actually does end up being the case. Like, we stand Charlie for being able to protect her sister even as like a literal toddler. toddler. Anyways, Teddy still isn't that convinced, and so she goes to visit Spencer at work the following day and check that they're still on for the next night. Spencer agrees until she says that Charlie will be there, and then he says that he forgot that he actually has a thing. So either he forgot that he has plans with Skylar, or this whole Charlie situation is really doing a number on his conscience. The following day, Teddy goes to visit Spencer at work once again, and then this is when she catches him with his arm around another girl. She watches them for a bit before confronting him, and then he basically gaslights her by acting confused and asking her what she's talking about. So she announces to everybody that Spencer is a cheater, but that's when he lies and says that Skylar is his cousin, and so then embarrassed, Teddy leaves.
Teddy, you got it all wrong.
Oh, what? Okay, so you just put your arm around all your customers, is that it?
No, I put my arm around my cousin.
Your what?
My cousin, Skylar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your cousin Skylar. She seems nice.
Now this scene bugs me a lot, and I feel like for obvious reasons. It's one thing that he's been seeing Skylar behind her back this whole time, but then to make her feel bad and twist the narrative back on her, all while continuing to lie to her, is just so disgusting. But thankfully, Spencer's lies don't go on for much longer, as Teddy later runs into Skylar and the truth is revealed.
So, you two have met, huh?
Yeah, turns out we're cousins. Anything you want to say, Spencer?
Free sample?
Sure, I'd love one. Delicious. You should try some. Yeah, and don't forget dessert.
Hey, wait.
How could you?
I'm sorry. I can't
Just don't. Oh.
And it's just crazy to think about how short of a moment Teddy and Spencer actually share with one another in this scene, but it's still more than enough to get the full story across. Like, you can really tell just how hurt Teddy is in that moment when she really only says one thing. I also love this scene because I feel like you can tell that it's before they decided to make Skylar like the dumb character, which is another Disney Channel trope that I'm just so sick of. So then the episode ends with this iconic scene between Teddy and Amy where she comforts her post-breakup.
Look, honey, the point is, if I hadn't had my heart broken, I never would have met your father.
Then I would have never been born. And I wouldn't be so sad right now.
No, honey. Oh, it's terrible, I know. It stinks. But you know what, babe? It will get better. I promise.
And I know that this is the same advice that people always give post-breakup, that things will get better and that you're one step closer to finding your person, but like, it really is true. And this moment really is so sweet. I just personally wish it could have been the end of the whole Spencer story arc, but unfortunately it's not. So let's move on to the next episode. So we come to find out that Teddy has basically been in a depressive state since her breakup with Spencer 2 days ago. Ivy comes over to try to drag Teddy out of bed, but she says that no one is able to understand what she's going through. And so Ivy decides to bring Skylar over because she is the one person who really does understand exactly what she's going through. It's also revealed that Ivy pressed Spencer up against a locker and forced him to give her Skylar's information, which is another thing that I just love. So the two of them go on to bond over the things that Spencer used to do while he was dating both of them, and they both agree that it feels nice to talk things out. And this is the part that really gets me, because it would have been one thing if Spencer just like kissed another girl or was caught flirting with somebody else while he was still with Teddy, but like, it's so much worse than that. He was literally in a relationship with Skylar, like exclusivity, seeing one another on the regular, all while dating Teddy at the same time. Like, I feel like in terms of like this scale of like cheating and how bad, like this has got to be at the top. But moving on, then, as I'm sure we all remember, the two decide to get revenge by recording a song about him being a two-timing pig. So Teddy gets ready to post the clip online, excited that it will ruin him, but then Spencer shows up.
I want you to know how sorry I am about what happened. I made a huge mistake. Hanging out with Skylar was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Teddy, you're the one I want to be with.
Spencer, I
No,
just
look,
don't...
I know I don't deserve it, but is there any way you can forgive me? We can just start over?
No, I can't. I just don't think I can trust you. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Now, I'm really happy that they included this scene, especially considering the fact that we didn't really get a conversation between the two of them in the previous episode. I feel like it humanizes Spencer a little bit more to see him like that, and I also really like seeing Teddy stand her ground when it probably would have been a lot easier to just take him back in that moment. And so this brings Teddy to decide not to post the video online explaining that just because somebody hurt you doesn't mean you need to hurt them back, which I personally feel like is a great note to end on, especially considering the main target demographic of this show is children. So it's good that they brought the lesson back around around there. And so yeah, I feel like that wraps up their first story arc really well, and so let's move on to episode 2. Chapter 2. So then we have the next episode in which Spencer has apparently already moved on, even though 5 seconds ago he was crying at Teddy's doorstep. But I mean, I guess to be fair, we don't really know how much time has passed, and like, I know it's wrong to judge people based off of like how quickly they're able to move on. But come on, 1 episode later, like, I just feel like that's garbage if you ask me. Anyways, this episode starts off with Teddy obsessing over Spencer's online post, saying that she checks his status every hour. She also notices that he hasn't changed his relationship status to single yet, as it still says that he's in a relationship. So the following day at school, when she runs into him, she tells him that he should probably update his status now to single, and then he reveals that he did update it, but then he changed it back as he is once again in a relationship. Teddy then panics, and then out of fear of embarrassment, she says that she's in a relationship with somebody as well, and then ends up using the name of one of Gabe's friends who has a crush on her. This ends up backfiring for her though once she agrees to go out with this kid to get him to stop bugging her, and then Spencer sees them together. But then we end up getting this really sweet pep talk from her quote-unquote date Austin, in which he says that she deserves somebody better and that that's not Spencer. Like, even this random 11-year-old knows that that guy's trash, and still the show decides to go in that direction for some reason. And then to just rub some salt in the wound even more, in her video diary she says that she's over Spencer and she's finally able to defriend him. But none of that matters apparently, because the next episode is the ski resort episode. So while on a family vacation, Teddy ends up running into a psychic that tells her she will come face to face with the love of her life on this vacation. Then after the psychic's other 2 predictions come true, Teddy really starts to believe this. She then goes on to run into 3 boys in the lobby, and one of them actually ends up being Zeke from High School Musical, or not, he's not actually Zeke, but he's played by the actor that plays Zeke. And then of course the third person is Spencer.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Well, actually, I came here to see you.
Oh no, why'd you do that?
Because I've been thinking about you, and there's something I need to say.
Just please don't. It can't be you.
What can't be me?
It! How much clearer can I be?
Okay, will you at least listen
No,
to me?
I can't right now. I'm really busy.
Okay, but Teddy,
La 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 la.
So Teddy is now freaking out because she really believes that this psychic's prediction is true and that one of these boys is the love of her life, and she really doesn't want it to be Spencer. She even goes on to have this dream about being married to all 3 of them, making like the perfect polyamorous fever dream, which she really does not enjoy, so I guess we can cross that solution off our list. So Teddy calls up Ivy for help, and she reminds her that Spencer cheated on her and that he's not the one, so nice to know that there is somebody who is a voice of reason in this. So Ivy encourages Teddy to look into the other 2 guys, but then they're put off by Justin's weird laugh and the other guy's apparent mother issues. So all of this leads us to this moment where Spencer and Teddy end up getting stuck on a ski lift together, and his intentions are revealed.
I met this psychic, and she told me I'd come face to face with the love of my life on this trip, and I keep running into you, and everything else she predicted came true, but I'm so confused.
I'm not. Teddy, when I found out you were coming up here, something told me I had to see you.
I don't know.
I do. And you do too.
And I kind of wish that Teddy didn't reveal the whole psychic thing to Spencer, because I feel like it's obvious that he was just going to use that as evidence as to why they should get back together. And it just makes the whole thing easier for him now, because then he can just use that as persuasion instead of actually showing that he has changed. But thankfully, Teddy isn't too convinced that he is the one yet, as we see her at the end of the episode tell Spencer that she thinks they should just be friends.
I think maybe we should just be friends.
But what about all the stuff we talked about on the ski lift and our kiss?
Well, you know how my mom said that every time she kisses my dad, she falls in love again?
Yeah?
Oh, when we kissed, I didn't feel that way.
Oh.
For Teddy not to feel anything like their first kiss back after being broken up, I just feel like is huge. And to me, it just confirms that earlier conclusion that she made, that she has moved on from him, and I am just so proud of her for actually sticking to that. Which is why it just confuses me even more that the show still continues to move forward with this relationship. Because clearly Teddy's moved on, and like we have too, so it would have been nice if it could have just ended here. Like, I guess you could argue that they were maybe going for like a slow burn situation and they really wanted to drag their storyline out, but like, you already had him cheat on her, so like I feel like this relationship is dead. Let's give Teddy some other relationships to explore. Let's move on to season 2, in which Spencer returns in the 7th episode. Not much really happens in this episode though, besides Teddy and Skylar and PJ and Emmett deciding to join forces to try to beat him in the battle of the bands. Also, Skylar and PJ start dating in this episode, which is just so sweet. And also a little bit embarrassing for Spencer if you really think about it, which I just feel like makes the whole situation even better. In the following episode, Ivy ends up dating this guy who is friends with Spencer, which ends up complicating their friendship a little bit. And we see this during a mock trial in class once Teddy accuses Ivy of going to a party she wasn't invited to, causing Ivy to reveal that she was actually with Spencer. Obviously, Teddy jumps to the conclusion that she's dating her ex, causing Ivy to have to explain that that's not the case.
Wait, so why were you out with my ex-boyfriend?
I was hanging out with Raymond, and he wanted to hang out with Spencer. I felt weird about it, but I went along. And I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't like it.
Why wouldn't she like it? You said we're friends, right?
Oh, please, everyone says that after they break up.
So we're not friends?
No, of course we are.
Okay, I'm confused. Are we friends or not?
I know.
Because if we are, then why are you mad that I was hanging out with Ivy?
No, I'm not mad. Okay, I'm mad because Look, I'm not the one on trial here.
And then oddly enough, that's actually where the storyline ends. Ivy and Teddy have a conversation where they make up, but then we never get a conclusion on the things that Spencer brought up, which is really disappointing. Especially because I would have loved to see Teddy put Spencer in his place and tell him just how hard it would be to be his friend after everything he put her through. And also just the fact that like he has yet to do anything to actually earn back her trust or friendship. So Spencer disappears again after this, which is probably why we didn't get that resolution to that plot line, but he's back again in episode 17. So Teddy runs into him while he's working at this new job as one of those like shirtless guys at a clothing store that's clearly a spoof on like Abercrombie. Teddy thinks that the job is stupid until he tells her about his employee discount, and then he offers to get her an interview. Long story short, Teddy ends up getting the job on the condition that she can show up the next day with a tan, and then Teddy ends up having a self-tanner accident in which she ends up showing up orange, and so she does not get the job. And that's basically this episode, so on to the next one. Which again comes after a bit of a Spencer lull, thankfully, but he's not back again until episode 26. Alright, so this is the Princess and the Frog episode for those of you who are familiar with the show. Basically, Emmett gets Teddy a job at Super Adventureland, so Good Luck Charlie's version of Disneyland. For this job, she is playing the princess in the story of The Princess and the Frog, and Emmett is playing the frog. And so this means that they have to kiss at the end of their little theme park show. And Teddy is put off by this at first until she has a dream that things end up going really nicely and she starts to see him differently. This causes her to invite him over and practice the kiss, but then Emmett can't do it out of the fear that it won't go perfectly. And so he ends up quitting, and then guess who comes to replace him? That's right, Spencer.
I'm so glad they brought someone new in here. Things got kind of complicated with the old frog, so with you and me, it's gonna be nice and simple.
Hey, Teddy.
Spencer?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
On to the following episode, we have this great conversation between Teddy and her parents where she is complaining about having to kiss Spencer at work, and I just love her dad's reaction. He's just like, Spencer, your ex, the one who cheated on you? And I'm just like, yes, Bob, that's the one. Thank you once again for that reminder as to why he sucks. Anyways, the two both agree to be professional about it, but then once they share their first onstage kiss, Teddy runs off. And then here it comes. So Spencer comes over to check on her and offers to quit, but then Teddy admits that she actually liked the kiss, and that's why she ran off, and then they end up getting back together.
You know, I didn't want it to be good. In fact, I was all prepared to be disgusted.
Thanks.
Now I don't know what to do.
Teddy. Hurting you was the stupidest thing I ever did. Will you please give me another chance?
And listen, as much as I don't like Spencer, I will say that I did really like how he handled that situation. I like how he came over to check on her and offers to quit and says that she has the job first and all of that. Like, I wish they could have shown us this side of Spencer's character more, and then maybe I wouldn't actually dislike him as much as I do. Alright, so Teddy and Spencer are back together now, but she hasn't told anybody yet. Then to Teddy's surprise, her parents reveal that they talked it over and decided to get her a car so that she doesn't have to go to work every day and kiss her ex, as that was the main reason why she had the job, so that she could buy a car. So Teddy is now conflicted and worried that if she comes forward about getting back together with Spencer, they'll take her car away. But she ultimately decides to tell the truth, and her parents let her keep the car.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan.
Spencer and I are dating again. At first, I didn't want to tell you guys because I was afraid that you would take away the car. I figured that I had a choice to make, either Ed or Spencer. So after thinking about it for a long time...
Oh, really? Long time.
I chose Spencer. I decided to give him another chance, so we're back together now, and I'm very happy.
Well, I'm just glad you could be honest with us.
And if you're happy, then I guess that's all that really matters.
Thanks.
And I just have to say that I feel like my favorite part about that whole interaction is Bob's face throughout it. Because he does a great job of saying a lot with his face and body language when the script didn't really give him much to work with. Like, imagine your daughter just told you that she's getting back together with the boy who cheated on her, when you saw the depressive toll it took on her and just how much he hurt her. Honestly, it was a really smart move on Teddy's part to actually have Spencer there when she told him, because I feel like if he wasn't there, they probably would have had a lot more to say. But at the same time, it just goes to show how good of a relationship Teddy does have with her parents, because even if they don't support it, she's still telling them anyways. And the fact that they are so accepting about everything, I feel like just goes to show why Teddy is so comfortable with them. And they know that she's already made up her mind, so anything bad that they say is just going to negatively impact their relationship with her, and like, why would they want that? If she's gonna get hurt, then she's gonna get hurt, and I just like really respect them for letting her figure that out on her own. And honestly, good on Spencer for actually being able to show his face in front of her parents after all that. I wish he could have shown more in his body language, just how nervous he was, but I also get that that's kind of a hard thing to show. Also, Amy does threaten him at the end with saying like if he ever hurts her again, then ba-bam, which I'm not really too sure what that means, but I assume that means violence, which I'm sure is also a pretty empty threat, but it's a nice little addition there. And so yeah, that actually wraps up season 2, and I feel like now that the couple are back together again, this would also be a good time to move on to chapter 3. Alright, so we start the 3rd season off with the two of them still working at Super Adventureland together, and they're not happy to be working outside all day in the heat. So they decide to audition for the presidential show because that means they can move to working indoors with air conditioning. So then we see them practicing for their audition, and then it turns out that Spencer ends up getting the role and Teddy doesn't.
Super Adventureland called.
Oh, and we didn't get it?
Actually, you didn't get it.
But you did? Oh, but did you tell them that you weren't gonna do the show without me?
Well, I was gonna. But it's supposed to be really hot next week, so
Oh, great, so I'm stuck kissing a sweaty frog.
pretty much.
So I'm kind of conflicted on this. First of all, I don't like the fact that he immediately accepts the role without talking to Teddy first. Especially because it would have been so easy for him to be like, thank you so much, would it be cool if I talk this over with my girlfriend first? Even just like as a form of courtesy, like the two of them auditioned together, Teddy was the one who came up with this idea, and the plan was for them to be able to work together and both not be able to suffer in the heat anymore. And so for me, I just personally feel like that would have been the right thing to do. And of course, I feel like anybody in Teddy's situation would be like, man, that really sucks, but I'm obviously not gonna hold you back from this opportunity, like don't worry about me, go for it. Unless like working together for her was more of a thing, because then I feel like it gets a little bit more complicated. But he didn't do that, and so then instead I just feel like it comes across as really selfish behavior. But then at the same time, I'm also really not too sure I can hold it against him, like especially as someone who has also worked at Disney World outside in the heat all day, like it sucks and it's hot, and so I'm like, yeah, I also kind of get it. But then the whole thing gets even worse when Spencer reveals who their new love interests are in their productions. Spencer's is this really cute girl who doesn't see his relationship with Teddy as an obstacle to getting him and constantly flirts with him anyways. And Teddy's is someone who has earned the nickname Greasy Joe. And so then it's like, you already weren't in a great situation by just accepting the job and letting Teddy suffer on her own. And then to add all of this on top of it, I'm just like, I don't know, like, am I crazy for feeling like this is almost as bad as the whole cheating situation? I just personally feel like if my significant other did this to me, I would probably be pretty hurt. Especially if that significant other in question has already cheated on me in the past. And now he's gonna be working every day with somebody who doesn't care about my existence. Like, I couldn't even fathom how paranoid this whole situation would make me, especially being so soon after getting back together. So Teddy then ends up crashing their show as Ben Franklin. And oftentimes when I make videos like these, I tend to get some comments criticizing me for taking one character's side more than the others and being a bit biased towards one character, which usually tends to be the male in the situation, which like is fair, I'll own that. So I just wanted to say that Teddy doing this in response was not very cool and pretty childish of her. I mean, I don't know if I really blame her given the situation that he put her in, but still, wasn't cool and she should not have done that. So Spencer goes on to confront her after the show and basically accuses her of being jealous and tells her that she has nothing to worry about.
Look, Teddy, you have nothing to worry about. Right? There's no one in the world who I'd rather be with than you.
Really?
Really.
George Washington, you're the best boyfriend I've ever had.
You're the best girlfriend I ever had.
Ben Franklin?
Come here. I'm gonna teach you something about electricity. Oh, yeah.
And I guess if you ship them, then this is a really cute moment, but I just personally can't get over the line where Spencer says that she's the only girl that he wants to be with. Because, like, if that was the case, then why did he cheat on her in the first place with Skylar? Because clearly, in that situation, she was not the only girl he wanted to be with. But I digress. And then also just like her comment about him being the best boyfriend she's ever had just kind of made me a little bit sad. Anyways, they kiss and make up, but then end up getting fired for kissing in costume while still being in view of the guests. On to episode 2, in which Teddy creates the ship name of spendy for them, and I think Ivy speaks in disgust for all of us. But this is the Jinx episode in which everyone at school thinks Teddy is a jinx because the basketball team has yet to win since her and Spencer got back together. Then we have this great moment where Teddy says that they could easily stop the rumors if Spencer could just play better, but then realizes that that's not gonna happen. But all of this leads to Teddy having the idea of them pretending to break up to get the team to relax and win a game. So the following day at school, they have their fake breakup in the halls, and Spencer accuses Teddy of cheating on him, which maybe wasn't the best call. Like, there's lots of reasons to break up. Like, we don't really need to go back to cheating again, but whatever. Afterwards, they share this cute moment where they compliment one another on their performance, which I actually liked, surprisingly enough. But what I liked even more was her mom and Ivy's reactions once they heard the news.
Heard the news? Up top.
What news?
You dropped him like he's hot, even though he's not.
Oh, we're
I couldn't believe you got back with that dog in the first place.
Spencer and I are still together.
You didn't let me finish. I love dogs.
Now, see, we staged the breakup. After they win the game tonight, we'll tell everyone we're still together, and they'll know I was never a jinx.
Heard the news, up top.
We're still together.
You didn't let me finish.
Like, the fact that the two arguably closest people to her would celebrate her breakup with Spencer, I just feel like speaks volumes, and I love that they included that in the show. And so now we're at the next game, and when Teddy misinterprets Spencer's shot as the game point, she reveals to everyone that they're still together when the game is actually tied. Spencer has to make a foul shot for them to win the game, which he ends up doing, and so they celebrate together afterwards.
Now.
And again, you know, I hate to say it, but I did think that this moment was really cute as well. But on to episode 4, it is now prom time. So Teddy wants to plan their schedule for the night, but Spencer tells her to slow down because he hasn't asked her yet.
So I was thinking, if you show up by like 6, then we can do some pictures. Then if we left by 6:30,
Teddy, hold on. I haven't even asked you yet.
Well, I just assumed. I mean, we're boyfriend and girlfriend.
Well, yeah, I know, but I still think I should ask you, you know? It's kind of how it's done.
Fine. Go ahead, ask me.
Teddy, would you like to go to the prom with me?
No.
Wait, what?
Well, first you make a whole big deal out of the invitation, then you just blurt it out. Where's the romance, the heart?
Maybe I should start over?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Which, like, I definitely agree with Teddy when she says no. Like, you can't make a whole deal about it and then just ask nonchalantly. So then he goes on to make a bigger deal of asking her, guided by Teddy, and then she says yes. Then we find out that Amy wants Teddy to wear her dress to prom, and then when Spencer sees her in it, he cringes in reaction. Which, like, is fair. Like, it is quite the statement piece, but I still feel like it would have been nice if he at least pretended to like it. Or if he would have just focused on her and said something like, "You look so pretty," and wasn't even able to register what she was wearing. But also in Spencer's defense, I don't really understand why Teddy didn't give him a warning beforehand. He does go on to say that she looks amazing and incredible when she changes into her actual prom dress, but like, I don't know, I feel like at that point it all kind of feels a bit superficial to me. Teddy then goes on to find out that PJ is having a terrible prom night, which honestly Spencer couldn't care less about, but he does still end up going with her to help, albeit begrudgingly. But then by the end of the episode, he does say that as long as he's with her, he doesn't care where they are. Moving ahead a couple episodes, it is now the couple's 10-month anniversary, which Spencer forgot about.
Oh, silly. Tomorrow is 10 months.
10 months?
Since we got back together. Tomorrow is our 10-month anniversary.
No, I'm just messing with you. Tomorrow night, I'm taking you out to a special fancy dinner.
But then Teddy ends up forgetting about the dinner that they have planned and lets her grandmother give her a makeover, and so she ends up having to go to the dinner dressed like that. And then on top of that, she ends up having to bring her grandmother with her to the dinner to save her mom from being left alone with her. And I could go on about how it wasn't cool for Teddy to forget their dinner, but then it's like Spencer didn't even remember their anniversary to begin with, so I kind of feel like they're both guilty in this situation. A couple episodes later, and after a recast of Spencer's mom, we find out that Teddy is worried that his mom doesn't like her. And Teddy also kind of shares with Spencer her own mother's thoughts on him.
Does your mom like me?
Hey, of course she likes you. I mean, does your mom like me?
Let's keep it on your mom.
And I just love the fact that the show is continuing to push the narrative that like nobody in Teddy's life is really that big of a fan of Spencer. So Teddy decides to take his mom out for high tea, but then things turn to chaos once she accidentally burns her tongue on the tea, and then Teddy makes her put it on the ice sculpture, which, as she explains in her video diary, results in a trip to the ER. In the following episode, Teddy expresses to Spencer that she's a little bit sad that this is her last year of high school and she's never been on a sports team.
You know, it's kind of sad. This is my last year of high school, and I've never played a sport.
Oh, well.
You know what? I'll join the girls' volleyball team.
You're gonna play volleyball? Look, it's not that easy.
Well, how hard could it be? You do it.
It's very difficult, right? I just make it look easy. Kind of like being your boyfriend.
Now, to be fair, we have already seen her dance, and so we do know that Teddy isn't very well coordinated. But that scene still just gives me the ick. Like, I just wish she could have been a little bit more supportive. And then the rest of the episode isn't really about them, but there is this really great moment at the end where she spikes the ball right into his nose, which, like, if that isn't karma, I don't know what is. Alright, on to episode 16, in which it is now the couple's 1-year anniversary. So Teddy goes on to plan a romantic French dinner for them at PJ's apartment, but then their dinner doesn't end up going as planned once Teddy gets upset with Spencer for not remembering how their first meeting went.
You don't remember any of this, do you?
Honestly, no. But does it really matter where we met?
Does it matter? It's only the beginning of our relationship. Spence, we talked about how we both wanted to go to Paris someday. I can't believe I went through all this trouble and you don't even remember.
Wait, where are you going?
As far away from you as I can get.
Now, I understand Teddy being hurt by this, but part of me feels like she does overreact just a little bit, especially when you take into account that this moment that she's talking about took place about 2 years ago. But the reaction makes a lot more sense when Spencer apologizes for not remembering and Teddy explains that it was a lot more than that.
Sometimes I just feel like I'm more into this relationship than you are.
Remember that period when we were broken up?
Yeah.
How long was that?
I don't know, like 9 months?
8 months, 19 days, and 4 hours.
Wow.
Teddy, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I may not remember the moment we met, but we can still make this a moment to remember.
How are we gonna do that?
Well, I have an idea.
And while Spencer's reply does a good job of proving that he is invested in this relationship, I still feel like the fact that Teddy even had this concern to begin with is like a huge yikes to me. In the next episode, Teddy and Spencer get into a fight over whether or not this exchange Teddy had with this girl in drama class was a big deal or not. And then Spencer shows up with flowers the next day to apologize, and then Bob gets involved, and he tells him that women are irrational and that he needs to overreact just to make her happy. So definitely an L moment from Bob. And then also an L moment from Spencer for listening to him as he goes on to do just that. However, unbeknownst to the two of them, Amy ends up overhearing this whole conversation and warns Teddy about it and advises her to get revenge. So she gets Spencer all worked up about this pair of shoes that she bought that she's not allowed to return, and then he ends up saying all of this stuff about the store employee. And so she brings Spencer to the store and tries to get him to say all that he said to her to this tough employee who is friends with Teddy and in on the whole thing. All of this leads to Spencer apologizing and admitting that he was acting on some bad advice that he received from her dad, and says that he will never do that again. But now we are coming up on the end of the season, which also means we are thankfully coming up on breakup number 2. So Spencer is trying to get into the Boston Institute of Performing Arts, or BIPA as Teddy says. And while he's there visiting for the weekend, Teddy attempts to make this welcome home lunch for him, which doesn't exactly go as planned. First of all, she can't cook, and second of all, once he arrives, he breaks the news to her that he got in on early enrollment and he would actually start on Monday. Teddy is shocked by this news, and Spencer says that he hasn't made a decision yet as he wanted to talk things over with her first, which is honestly honestly kind of out of character for him. He actually wants to talk things over with her first and get her opinion on something that would affect the both of them. Like, who would have thought? So after taking the time to think it over, Teddy invites Spencer back over and tells him that he should take this opportunity in Boston.
Hey, you know you have to do this.
Yeah, but what about us?
Well, there will still be in us, just a long distance us.
You really think we can make that work?
Hey, nothing is far away anymore. We can text, we can talk on the phone, we can video chat, we can email. Oh, and the great part is that when I smell funny, you won't have a clue.
Hey, you never smell funny.
I know.
And then they go on to share a hug that I actually thought was really sweet, where Teddy says that she's not going to let go until he has to leave the next day. And I am glad that Teddy came to that conclusion and Spencer agreed with it, because I feel like it's an often too common trope for one of them to give up their dream school to be with the other person. Or maybe it's not that common of a trope and I'm just thinking of Boy Meets World, but either way, I feel like that was definitely the right decision. So then we go on to see Teddy and Spencer video chatting, but both are so busy that they hardly get the chance to talk to one another. Which brings Teddy to having this conversation with her friends about how much she misses him, although it's only been 3 days. And then Ivy comes up with the not so great idea of lying to her parents and saying that she's going to stay over at her house for the night and then actually going to Boston to visit him instead. Then we see Teddy going and doing just that, but then in a shocking twist, or I guess not really, it's a pretty common trope, Spencer ends up coming home on the same day that she ends up going to him. So they're both in the wrong place once again. And before we get into them finally being able to reunite in Denver, I just had to mention the fact that Teddy never saw any repercussions for lying to her parents and flying across the country to visit her boyfriend. They definitely just like skimmed right over that part, which really bugged me because I feel like it would have been really nice to see Teddy actually get in trouble for once. But back to Spendy, so they end up having their reunion hug and it's a pretty cute moment, I'll give them that. This then brings them to the conversation as to how hard long distance has been for them and they decide to break up.
I just can't spend all my time missing you. I'm gonna drive myself crazy.
Yeah, I feel the same way. What do we do?
Well, I mean, there's nothing we can do except... I don't want to say it.
Yeah, I don't want to say it either. I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Now, as far as breakup scenes go, I feel like this is a pretty good one, and part of the reason why I think it is a good one is because I'm pretty sure that these actors were dating at the time. And so that's why I think the emotions just feel so raw in it. This is also the first time where we've heard them say I love you to one another, which I feel like definitely impacts the gravity of the situation. And then to close off season 3, we have this great scene between PJ and Teddy where he tries to comfort her and talks about how he went through the same thing with Skylar.
I know it hurts, but trust me, this is the hardest part.
I just miss him so much.
It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. I know, because I've been through this. Remember when Skylar moved away? I thought my world was over, but somehow I managed to move on. You will too.
I just love that they gave this moment to PJ because I do feel like he really delivers, especially in the fact that he's able to relate to exactly what she's going through. So that wraps up season 3, but unfortunately we have one more spendy plotline that happens in the beginning of season 4 that we have to talk about before we can move on to our last chapter. So in episode 2, Teddy decides that it's time for her to start dating again after Spencer tells her that he has a date that night. But then the guy that she ends up going out with turns out to look just like Spencer. Ivy thinks this means that she's not over Spencer yet, but Teddy doesn't agree with her until she gives this new guy a complete makeover, and then she realizes that she's not attracted to him anymore. Then we see the two of them video chatting again, and Teddy almost tells Spencer about her experience with this other guy, but then he goes to introduce her to the girl that he's seeing, and she ends up looking just like Teddy as well, as she is played by Bridget Mendler in a brown wig. And then the episode ends with Teddy saying that she will wait for him to herself as she closes the laptop. So that wraps up Teddy and Spencer for now, which means it's finally time for Teddy to explore some other relationships, which brings us to the chapter that I'm sure most of you have been waiting for, which is of course the beau chapter. So a couple episodes later, Teddy decides to have a slumber party at PJ's as it is her anniversary with Spencer and she wants to do something that will get her mind off things. During the party, PJ ends up giving one of her friends the advice that you can tell when a boy likes you based off of the look that they give you after you first meet. Then in an odd turn of events, these rats that PJ and Emmett were rat sitting end up getting lost in their apartment, and so Teddy calls her dad for help, and he ends up bringing his new trial employee, Beau, along. Beau is able to catch the rat, and so Bob hires him on the spot, and then he introduces him to Teddy, in which he then gives her the look that PJ was talking about earlier. The episode ends with Teddy talking about him in her video diary, and she gets all shy once he gets brought up, which is really cute.
In other news, Dad hired a new guy, Beau, and I met him, and that's all I want to say about that.
On to the following episode, Teddy is helping her dad out at work by answering some of the phone calls while he's training Beau. So he comes in while Teddy is working and then gets a phone call from someone who has apparently been hounding him, and so he gets Teddy's help in pretending to be Bob so that he has an excuse to hang up. We then come to find out that the call came from his girlfriend Julie, who's back home in Tennessee, and so the two of them are trying out the whole long distance thing, which is something that Teddy can definitely relate to. Later on, he decides that it's time to break up with her after her constant calls and text messages end up getting in the way of his work. So Beau goes to Teddy for help in role-playing their breakup so that he'll be more prepared, but when she gets too excited at the idea of getting to try out her southern accent, he asks her just to be his moral support instead. So Beau goes to break up with her, but then he starts to cave when she begins to cry, and so Teddy then steps in. Afterwards, he thanks Teddy for her help, and the two of them share a longer than necessary hug.
I can't believe it. I did it.
Well, we did it.
I feel so much better. I can't thank you enough, Teddy.
I'm glad I could help.
I should probably get out to the job.
Yeah, and I should get back over here.
At the end of the episode, she mentions that Beau is single now in her video diary, and she can't stop smiling at the thought of it. In episode 10, Beau asks Teddy if she has any plans for Saturday, but then she says that she still has some unresolved feelings for her boyfriend and is not interested in dating right now. Then Beau switches gears and says that he actually wasn't asking her out, but that another girl asked to hang out with him on that night, and he's hoping that if he can bring Teddy along, then she'll get the idea that he's not interested, and it can be more of like a group hangout thing. So Saturday night rolls around, and Teddy shows up to their date that's not actually supposed to be a date, and then Beau breaks the news that this girl isn't going to make it.
Oh, man. Katie can't make it.
Oh, well, then we should cancel the lemonades, because my job's done. Where's Donald?
Well, hold up. As long as we're here, we might as well stay and hang out.
Oh, no, this isn't really my thing.
What's not your thing? Having fun?
Are you kidding? Nobody's more fun than me. Barrels of monkeys look at me and go, wow, we wish we were that fun.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So she goes on to ride the mechanical bull as an attempt to prove him wrong, then gets him to sing karaoke with her by calling him the not fun one. They go on to sing karaoke together, and then of course, even though Beau said he couldn't sing, he's amazing at it, and the sparks are flying. The episode ends with Beau dropping her off at her house and admitting to her that there was no other girl and that he made the whole thing up just as an excuse to hang out with her.
The thing is, Teddy, ever since I met you, I felt like there was a connection. I kind of think you feel something too.
I don't know.
Don't you feel something right now?
Maybe. Definitely. Good night, Beau.
Not Teddy.
Now, you could say that him tricking her into going on a date with him is wrong, but I kind of see it in the same way of like Mal giving Ben the love potion. Like, sometimes you just gotta give people a little push, and I like that he came clean about it immediately after. In the next episode, Teddy stops Beau from giving her a hug at home as she doesn't want her dad to see them, as she hasn't found the right time to tell him that they're dating yet.
Hi.
Hey, you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Do I still smell like skunk?
No, it's not that. I haven't told my dad that we're dating yet. And the little.
Well, when are you gonna tell him? I want to tell the world. If I was back home, I'd have your name on the water tower by now.
Then we see Teddy video chatting with Spencer, so I guess they're still in communications, which I'm not too sure how I feel about, but anyways, she goes on to tell him about Beau, but then her dad walks in, so she can't. So now it's Teddy's birthday, apparently, and so she's having a good time with the fam, and then the doorbell rings, and so she goes to answer it, thinking that it's Beau, but then, oh no, surprise, it's actually Spencer. Like, just when I was enjoying myself for once in this video, they just had to throw him right back in there.
What a great surprise. What are you doing here?
Come on, you really think I'd miss your 18th birthday? I flew in this morning.
Hello?
Beau's here.
Hey, everybody. Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Who's the guy with the smaller bouquet?
Who's the guy with the cheaper flowers?
I guess I should probably introduce you to. Unless there's another option. No? Okay.
So of course, Teddy then has to reveal that her and Beau are dating, to the surprise of Spencer and Bob. At first, Spencer seems happy for the couple, telling Beau that he's a lucky guy, but then he comes back over later and tells Teddy that seeing her with Beau made him realize that he still wants to be with her.
Teddy, when I saw you with him, I realized that I still have feelings for you.
What are you saying?
I think we should get back together.
Spencer,
What, don't you still have feelings for me?
Of course I do.
Hey, then we should be together.
But I also have feelings for Beau.
I saw you first.
I don't really think that applies here.
So then Spencer goes on to force her to choose between the two of them, even though he still lives in Boston. Like, the reason why they broke up still stands. The two of them couldn't do long distance. Like, it didn't work, it was too hard. The only thing that's changed now is that Teddy is trying to move on, and Spencer is actively trying to stop her from that, which, like, really bugs me. So then we have this conversation between Teddy and Beau where she fills him in on her conversation with Spencer, and he is just so respectful throughout the whole thing, and it just proves why I love this guy so much. And it just makes me so mad that I know the show's outcome, because I feel like this scene alone is proof as to why Beau should have been endgame.
Look, Teddy, obviously I want you to choose me, but I get that you and Spencer have had a long history together. Whatever you decide, I'll understand. I just want you to be happy.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Although, I kind of wish this whole thing had come up before me and your dad had that 5-hour conversation.
The fact that they've only been dating for like a week or so, and yet he is the one prioritizing her happiness in all of this, I just feel like proves why he's the better guy. So Teddy invites Spencer back over and tells him that now just isn't the right time for them, and then reminds him of the fact that he still lives in Boston.
So, I'm not saying that it could never work between us. But, now's just not the time.
Oh.
I mean, you know, you're on the other side of the country, and I'm going to college soon. It just, you know, it feels like we're in different places.
She asks to remain friends, but Spencer says that he can't because it's just too hard for him, and then he leaves. But now that all of that is over with, it is time for the Bug Prom. Apparently there is this big exterminator event that happens annually called the Bug Prom, and so this year Beau invites Teddy to go with him. They then come to find out that Beau's aunt, who he's living with, is also Amy's arch nemesis. They try to hide this from them, but then they ultimately just decide to let it happen. They have this huge showdown, and it's this whole thing that's not really that relevant to Teddy and Beau and their storyline, and so let's move on to the next episode, which is unfortunately their breakup. Like, that's how short their storyline is, and it just makes me so sad. Especially when they just had this whole two-parter episode where she literally chose him over Spencer. Like, what was the point of all of that if they were just gonna undo it 2 seconds later? Anyways, episode 16. So Beau shows up at their house during breakfast, and him and Bob bond over some bug stuff, and afterwards Teddy says that them getting close is concerning to her. After work that day, the two come in all buddy-buddy, and once Bob leaves, Teddy tells Beau that he doesn't have to keep kissing up to her dad anymore, and that he doesn't have to pretend to be all into this bug stuff. But Beau says that he's not pretending and that he could actually see himself pursuing this as a career. He then tries to tell her a bug story from work, but she makes him stop. That night, Teddy has a dream about her future being just like her parents, and this idea really scares her. But then luckily for Teddy, the problem then ends up solving itself, as the following day, Beau comes over and admits to her that he's been really homesick lately, and that there's an opening for an exterminator for him back home, and that he really wants to take the job. Teddy doesn't want to hold him back, and so they say their goodbyes, and that's the end.
Teddy, the only thing that would keep me in Denver is you.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to go. But I'm not gonna stand in your way.
So, this is goodbye?
Yeah, I guess so.
You're a special girl, Teddy. I'm gonna miss you a ton.
I'm gonna miss you too.
Why do I feel like I'm gonna cry? Like, it's not even that emotional of a scene. And they didn't even really date for that long. I think I just personally know what's coming, and it just makes me upset that it wasn't them together forever. Anyways, we're coming up on the end of the series, and of course we can't let Teddy be single and happy by the end of it, and so it's time for Spencer to make his grand return. In episode 20, Bob runs into Spencer, who is now working at this frozen yogurt place, and he tells him that he's actually been in Denver all summer, but he hasn't come by the house because he's wanted to give Teddy space, as, you know, they're no longer together, and he still believes that she is with Beau. Which I will say, I do give him some respect for giving her space. That is great. Thank you, Spencer. So Bob goes on to fill Spencer in about Teddy going to Yale and that her and Beau have split. Then when he gets home, he tells Teddy about his run-in with Spencer, and she gets him to go back to the frozen yogurt place and invite him to her going away party. So now we're at the final episode. Spencer does end up coming to her party, and the two of them sing a song together. The following day, Spencer comes to get his jacket that he forgot there on purpose, and then the two have a conversation about being just friends, which ends with them sucking face. So, spendy endgame. There it is.
You know, Boston and New Haven are pretty close.
Maybe we could make plans to see each other?
Yeah, no, I'd love that.
So would I.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see each other. You know, as friends.
Yeah, as friends. Or maybe more than friends.
Yeah, that works too. You know, I left my jacket here on purpose.
I know.
And that's it. That's the end of their story. Can you believe it? I can't. I've been sat here for a very long time. You know, it's kind of wild that they dragged them on for so long and then had them break up and then introduced a much better and healthier love interest for Teddy and then broke them up and then rushed to get Teddy and Spencer back together in the final 2 episodes. I guess the one nice thing I can say about their ending is that we finally got a decent kiss between the two of them. Like, I feel like their finale kiss is one of the only good kiss that they actually shared in the entire series. And just comparing their last scene to Teddy and Beau's last scene, like, I feel like there is no denying as to which couple was dating in real life. Like, I'm not gonna deny their chemistry was undeniable, especially near the end. And it's just like really unfortunate that they just had to make Spencer suck so bad. And so yeah, that is my Spencer and Teddy video. I assume it is very long, as I've been sat here for a very long time. So for those of you who have stuck around, thank you. I really appreciate it. As always, let me know which ship you want to see me cover next. I was thinking of maybe expanding outside of Disney Channel because I did a quick little test with some clips and I think I would be able to include them because that's what was deterring me before. Is like, I don't know. I really like including scenes from the show and I think I would be able to as long as I kept them shorter. So like, I would love to explore some Nickelodeon ships or maybe some Netflix ships. Like I would love to cover Davy and Ben from Never Have I Ever. I just wasn't sure if you guys would be into that. So please let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, Cater Tots, that is all I have to say for today. Hope you'll have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Oh boy. I am very excited to go to bed. It is actually currently 2 a.m. I started filming at around 9:30 because I had to wait for the sun to set. Because in this new studio, I have these beautiful giant windows across from me and I thought I would be able to figure out how to use natural lighting. And that did not go as planned. I'm not gonna give up on that though because I do feel like natural light does look really pretty on camera. And so I just can't do it for these really long form videos, but maybe my more short form videos that would work. I don't know. But I'm happy to be back and get into it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I love you so much. And thank you for understanding why I haven't been posting. I'm getting all tongue-tied now, but for those of you who maybe have been following me for a while might know the fact that I did grow up with divorced parents. So now it is my dad and my stepmom that are separating. And so going through all of this again as an adult has been really hard. And then on top of that, like moving in with my boyfriend, like I've never moved in with a significant other before. And so that was a big change in my life. And so it was a really weird combination of like feeling like my childhood life is crumbling, but then I have this other part of my life that's going to new and also kind of scary places. And it was just a crazy month for me. And so I really appreciate your guys' patience. And also the fact that you guys were commenting and asking where I was really meant a lot because I've never been at a stage in my YouTube like career before where people had actually noticed that I hadn't been posting. And so that was also really cool, also stressful at the same time. But anyways, thank you guys for being there and still watching this video. It really means a lot. And so yes, I need to go because I'm gonna start crying and we don't want that. Nobody wants to see that. So yeah, okay. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. I love you. Goodbye.